Hey, this is just going to be a tutorial on how to make a simple Excel sheet like this. Basically, we're taking what was once hand-drawn notes on a notepad, and we're just going to put it in a digital format so that it makes it really easy for us to sort if we want to. We can sort by any of these columns. And then we're also going to be automatically running some calculations so that, for example, if this value is 10, this value becomes this one minus this one. Or in this case plus, but yeah, it's 4 7/16 less than this. Same thing here to here. And we made it so we can change this value if we want to. 4 7/16. All right, so yeah, it's pretty simple. It's about as, one of the more basic things that you can do in Excel, but I just thought this might be a nice tutorial on how to do it. And for anyone getting started, this might be helpful. Okay, so this is our goal. I'll try to put it up on the screen here. We want to make an Excel document that basically mimics what was previously hand-drawn notes. We've got values on the left, which correspond to values on the right. You can see it says panels minus 4 7/16. So we're going to make those calculations automatic so that the user doesn't have to do it on the calculator. And we're going to make it sortable so you can just rearrange the whole chart. So let's go into Excel, and we'll start by looking at the headers of all those. We had height, width, type, quantity, and then we had height, panel, and width, panel. Okay, and there's a few ways we can enter in numbers in Excel, and so personally I usually use decimals, but for like a carpenter who's using an English ruler a lot or an imperial ruler, you really want things in values of like 16ths. So for example, if I put in here 6.5, it just shows 6.5. If we want it to say 6.5, we can go to number, and we're actually going to do more number formats. We can go to fraction, and then we can display everything in 16ths. So now it's not fully reduced, so it's not 6 1/2, and we can do fully reduced as well. But if we do fully reduced, we might get some weird values that are not in 8ths or 16ths or 4ths or anything like that. So we'll just do everything in 16ths, and that's pretty reasonable. Another thing I want to mention is that in Excel you can input fractions as well. You can do, for example, 6 space 1/2, and it understands that as 6.5. You can see up here, and it displays it in the fraction form we told it to. You can also do equals 6 plus 1/2. So when we start with an equals, we're doing a formula. So 2 plus 5 plus 6, for example, is 13. So we're basically just telling it in an easy way to write this equals 6 plus 1/2, which is 6.5, or we could do 6 and 3/16, whatever, and it's going to end up like that. If you're using Google Docs, I think you can only use the equals something plus some other fraction, which is fine. Just you can't use the space method. Okay, so then the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm actually going to insert another column here. Insert. So to do that, I just right click on the column, and then I hit I, or you can also click insert, and that puts another column to the left. And I've got a little visual bug there. I don't know what's going on with this. Oh, format same as left, sure, whatever. And in here, I'm just going to put a number sign. So what this is going to do is this is going to just track what number the entry is, because what we might end up doing is sorting by type or sorting by the height of the panel or something like that. And if we want to put it back in the original order, we need some kind of index to do that. So we're just going to do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and format these as a table. Let me delete these entries for right now. Delete. So I'm just going to select kind of an arbitrary box here, and in this version of Excel, the way we do this is we say format as table, and you can pick any of these styles. There's no real difference between them. I'll just pick this one, and then so now it's asking me the range. You see it says A1 through G13, so A1 through G13, but you know, I want to make it nice and large in case there's a lot of entries. So let's go ahead and just make it G1000. I'm also going to check this box. It says my table has headers, because you can see I already labeled up here. These are called headers of your columns. So I'm going to go ahead and check that, and then it automatically understands that these are headers, and it is now sortable by this. You know, actually, we might try a different format here. Let's what about no? Oops. Let's go to home, format as table. Maybe this one. Yeah, I think that's better, huh? Maybe this one. Yeah, like that. Cool. So now we can really easily see between different lines. Okay, so here's the first fancy thing we can do in Excel. We can just go 1, 2, 3. And I think probably just 1, 2 would do it. I can highlight these, and if I click on this little box on the right and drag it, you can see it understands that I'm counting. You know, so it figures I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 like that. And if I double click it, it will go all the way down. So now I've got everything indexed. Nice and easy. Now let's do some formatting. I want to go ahead and center all of these. So I'll just click. This centers the height, this centers the width. The height would be like, you can see now they're centered in height, now they're in bottom, things like that. So when we've got such a small column, it doesn't really matter. But okay, and then we're going to go ahead and adjust the height here, and we can center actually all of these values. And what I'm going to do is double click this. Boom. And now it centers so that the largest entry will fit. So way down here at 999, it makes sure that that fits. If I, for example, had a value, some kind of crazy thing like that, well, let's make it even bigger actually. Okay, big old value in there. Yeah, you can see it makes sure that that will fit. So now let's delete that, go back here. Okay, great, so we've got our index. Height, this is just going to be a user inputted thing. Oh, and actually, let me bring the picture back up real quick of his notes. So there's actually another column in here that's not explicitly labeled, but I think it's something that we should put in there. So coming back here, I'm going to insert one here, and we are going to name it, I don't know, I'm just going to call it label. So for example, his first entry was micro, 34.5 by 23. And then the type was door, the quantity was 1. Okay, so now these two are the same as these two, but minus 4 7/16. So I could hard code that in there, but I'm actually on the side here, I'm going to make something called the variable. And I'm going to say this is equal to negative 4 7/16. So now what I can do is reference this value, and then later if we want to change it, it'll automatically do that. So that just makes that a little bit easier and makes it clear where we're getting the number from. Okay, so I'm going to say this equals height minus variable. Oh, nope, you know what, actually I want to do plus the variable because I called it negative. Okay, great. Now you can see when you format it as chart or format it as table, it takes whatever formula you put in here and goes ahead and extends it across the whole thing. If I wanted to do that manually, I could also use this feature and I could double click. Now one thing, here, let me put, this is actually not quite the right formula, and let me show you why. So if I, for example, put in 10 on the next one, see it didn't subtract. And the reason is that when it drags this formula down, you can see right now it's using the blue cell and the red cell. But in the next one, it's using the blue cell and the red cell. So you see, when you drag it down, it drags down all the cells that you reference with it, which is good in this case. We want it, you know, we want this cell to be this cell. We want this cell to be part of this cell. But we always want to look back at this variable. So a couple ways we could handle that. We could literally just repeat this value a bunch of times. Or we could go up here to where the red cell is referenced, and I'm going to hit F4. That just puts a $sign before the J and before the 3. The $sign locks that cell in place whenever you drag the formula. So now you can see that 5 and 9/16 is indeed 10 minus 4 7/16. Now we can do the same thing over here. So I can drag this to the side. And you can see, since we put dollar signs on that J3, our blue cell did move to the right, but our red cell did not. And then we can go ahead and make that go down. So now, one other thing is that this looks really ugly, right? We've got all these gross numbers that we don't want. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an if statement to format the cell. So if is a logic. So what I'm going to do, I've already got an equal sign. I'm going to say if, open parentheses, and first is the logic test. I'm going to say if this is equal to, open quote, close quote. So basically if it's nothing, all right, and then I put a comma, then the value if that's true. So if that cell is nothing, I want this cell to be nothing, open quote, close quote. Otherwise, I want to use that formula that I just put in. I want to subtract 4 7/16 from that value. Then I'll close parentheses, bam. So now, for example, this one sees that there is something here. It says, okay, I'm going to take out 4 7/16. But this cell here says, okay, I don't see anything here. So if this value is nothing, then I am going to be nothing instead of trying to be this. And you can see later if I change this, it figures it out. It says, okay, there's not nothing there, and I'll go ahead and change. So then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to this. Double click there, and I think that should do us. So let's just test real quick. Let's put 10 here, 10 here. Okay, those both seem to work. And now you can see we can change this if we want to. Let's say we just make it -4. Great, and now this value changes. So -4 and 7/16. Perfect. And I think that's us pretty much done. The other thing, so let me go ahead and type in some of these values, and I'll skip through it in the video so you don't have to watch me do it. But I'll show you some of the features, you know, of how to make it sortable and things like that. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've filled in some values here. And a couple things I noticed in the formatting before we go into sorting. I'm going to go ahead and click this far left value, hold Shift, and then click this column. So now I've selected all of these columns, and I'm going to do that double click that I showed before. And as long as I do it on one, it'll do it to everything that I have selected. So I double click here. Great. And now I've expanded my my columns to make sure that the text always fits. And you know, probably on each of these I could give it just a little bit more leeway. Maybe a little bit here. Something like that, just to make sure that we've got room for future entries that might be put in. I also, just for formatting's sake, now instead of hitting Shift, I'm going to hit Control, which lets me pick particular columns. I want my height and width to be the same on both, and I think these ones are a little bit wider than these just because the title here has panel, so I had to make sure that fit. Well, I could be wrong. Let's see. Okay, yeah, there we go. So make it a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. Great. So now all of these columns are the same width. I just think that that looks a little bit nicer. So also, let's bring up the picture again. You can see that there's some dark lines drawn in this chart. So I want to make sure that I can go ahead and draw those dark lines on this chart as well to help us figure out what we're looking at here. So the first dark line, so I'm going to hold Shift and go across here. I'm going to right click in the selection. I'm going to do Format Cells. And then I've already selected border. I'm on the border tab. I'm going to do a nice dark line, and I'm going to surround it. Boop. So now there's actually a dark line around all of this. You can't quite see it here. I can move it. Ugh, well, that was ugly, but here, Control Z, Control Z. Control Z is edit undo, so I was just undoing what I did. But anyway, there are dark lines around this whole area. You can't see them because it's on the edge. Okay, so then there were dark lines around type, so Format Cells, box around it. And there's some dark lines around quantity, Format Cells, box around it. And then a dark box around these as well. Format Cells, box around. Great. I'm also going to go ahead and highlight this in kind of a, not a very loud color, but just to say, hey, you know, this is a number that you can change. I like to do that a lot in my Excel sheets. Okay, so great. And now we can see that height we can sort this, largest to smallest, for example. You can see it rearranges everything. So when it moves one value, it moves that whole row. So now we can go in order of quantity, for example, things like that. But now the only way we can get it back to our original order is because we have this number right here. Also notice that if I do smallest to largest, for example, it does include blank cells. So you're going to lose everything. It's going to be way down here at the bottom. There are ways to get around this, but I don't think we need to for this particular sheet. Yeah, so that about does it. You know what? Why don't we add one more feature? Let's do insert up here, because up here we have sort of the main. Let me look up what he called it real quick. Yeah, we'll call this overall, and then we'll call this panel. So here we'll use the merge and center feature. So I'm going to click merge and center right here. Boop. And then I can do overall. And then over here, I'm going to merge and center over these ones. And I'm going to do panel. Oops. Great. And I think that about does us. Now we've got a fully functional sheet that these values are calculated automatically, so we won't have any errors, and we'll have some time savings. The values are in 16ths, so that it's friendly to imperial rulers, and we can sort it. So yeah, that's it. I hope that was helpful.